All right, welcome to Cincinnati.com Sports Beyond the Stripes with Paul Daugherty, presented by JosephAuto.com. We are here at the Moorline Lager House. I am Paul Daner Jr. You got to give the crowd. The crowd was into it right off the top. Right off the top. You like the crowd's involvement?
They're figuring it out. Just as we are figuring this out, they are figuring it out.
Doc is here with us, but we've got four on the table here today. Lindsay also here. Lindsay, what's going on?
Not much. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. Not a lot of people are doing bad at this point after the Bengals pull off the 13-6 win against the Patriots. Joe Reedy, our Cincinnati Enquirer Bengals beat writer. Life is always easier after a win for us. We don't take too many missiles.
Yeah, it's a heck of a lot easier, but you beat Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady twice in 3 weeks. It's all good, but unless you take care of the Brian Hoyers and Thaddeus Lewises of the world, it can be just as dire.
Absolutely. Well, let's dive right into it. Bengals 13, Patriots 6. Let's go through what we learned here from this game, because every game we learned something. I'm going to start it off. My one thing that we learned in this game is that the Bengals, for now, are right back where they were at the end of last year. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You have an offense that's currently ranked 22nd, trying to find itself. A defense currently ranked 8th that looks to be pretty dominant. They're back where they were. Is that going to be good enough, though, is the question? Is that good enough at this point? Should they be further along?
Well, we're going to find out, Paul. This is, at the moment, a 12-4 defense and a 9-7 offense. That makes for a 10-6 football team, maybe 11-5. 10-6 last year, that was not good enough. Is 10-6 good enough this year? And what sort of strides do the offense have to make, or the offense have to make to equal the defense at this point?
I think it'll be interesting. I think, as Marvin said last week, first 4 or 5 weeks, it's a learning process. I think it's still a learning process now. Biggest thing, both sides were physical, offense and defense. A little bit more balance. We'll do the trick this week in Buffalo. We'll wait and see. But, for 1 week against New England, it was good enough.
But can we agree that this team needs to be different come January? I mean, that's the whole point of this. It's okay that they're the same now, but that progress, this team needs to be different when it comes January. And as of now, we're not seeing it yet. There's obviously plenty of time, but something you need to start to see things.
I feel like it's a big disappointment kind of offensively. You have so many guys before the season you were excited about. Giovanni Bernard, Tyler Eifert, they're using him more. They used him more this past Sunday. I think using them, seeing what Andy Dalton can do with those weapons, until that happens, there's still some questions to be answered.
Can I interrupt real quickly?
Please.
Did they win the game?
They won the game.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure here. They won the game.
Yeah, they beat
We're
Tom Brady.
We're dissecting them as if they did not beat the New England Patriots. They beat the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good.
It is pretty good.
I've been known around these parts as a bearer of sort of bad tidings on occasion. I'm not known as the most positive guy in the room.
I'm shocked.
You're a negative
guy.
guy.
That might be a revelation to Joe down there, but that's true. This team played very well.
Absolutely.
The other day. It was the best defensive performance I've seen in the 25 years that I've been here. So, I'm not playing Pollyanna to suggest that we ought to be pretty pleased with these guys. If we can't be happy tonight, we may have a long year.
But, and this is the key thing, we saw they beat Green Bay. We were all happy. They went to Cleveland, laid an egg. There's always... And for as many years with Cincinnati sports fans, there's always this tendency that the other shoe's going to drop. And the other shoe dropped a week and a half ago in Cleveland. Many are wondering if it's going to happen this week in Buffalo. Now, if they do the job in Buffalo, 4-2, what we expected, everything's good. So it's kind of a pensive now, to steal a Marvin comment, we'll see.
Do they need to go to Buffalo and just have a blowout win, though? Just pretty much show what they can do.
I think everybody would love to see a blowout win, but in the NFL, that's not necessarily the way it goes. And I don't know if that's the way this team is going to be winning a lot of games. They're going to be winning a lot of games with the defense that grinds you down. And we saw last week with the emphasis on the running game that they're going to get more to that physical style, more of that 09 style that you saw a little bit, or at least for 1 week they were. So I don't know that this is going to be a team that you expect to see a 35-7 drubbing. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But for now, I don't know that's necessarily their style, and I think they're okay with that.
I just want to know where Reedy got the hat.
Yeah, we haven't even mentioned, how did we make it this far without talking? What were the odds that we'd make it 5 minutes without talking about the hat?
This is my Derby hat.
So the odds were good.
The odds were good.
Yeah.
The odds were in my favor. This was the 38-1 Kentucky Oaks long shot hat this past year with Princess of Sealmar.
I'm sure you never talk about that win when you go to the track either.
No, I never talk about it all.
The question, and Lindsay, we were talking about before the show about this, about when we were discussing what we learned. You talked about Mike Zimmer and the defense. What was the biggest thing you took in that regard away from this game?
When I watched Tom Brady have a 1st and goal and not score a touchdown, at a crucial time in the game, Tom usually does that. I would have already said he's getting in. This is going to be nothing for him. I think Mike Zimmer, with what he did on Sunday, that was his resume reel. That was his head coaching reel. He can carry this team to the playoffs. His defense can carry this team to the playoffs.
They get to the playoffs, can they win?
Right.
That's what we're up here discussing. We're trying to put water on the New England win. It was a great win, but it's a legitimate concern. Can Andy Dalton be better than he was last year? Because if he's not, as good as this defense is, maybe the Bengals won't be any better.
This defense has proven that it can get you to the playoffs. This defense has proven that Mike Zimmer can get you there, but they need the offense and Jay Gruden to put them over the top to be there. There is nothing wrong, like I said, there is nothing wrong with being right where you were at the end of last year, because you're in position to get back and be in the tournament. But by the time that tournament shows up, the offense needs to take a couple of steps, and that means involving the weapons, and they've got still 3/4 of the season to figure all that out.
But here's the stunning thing. Mike Zimmer and the Bengals defense beat the Patriots rolling 3 cornerbacks. Terrence Newman, Adam Jones, Chris Crocker stepping in at slot corner, no Leon Hall. Mike Zimmer won with basically 2 guys that he's bet on over the years. Adam Pac-Man Jones with the Deion Sanders bet that has paid off. And the last year with Terrence Newman saying, yeah, his playing ability might have suffered the past couple years, but I'm betting on Hart, and he's got it.
Absolutely.
Can we say one more thing about not only Mike Zimmer and his ability to get the best out of guys who other people have given up on? The whole personnel department deserves a little bit of an applause here. Wallace Gilberry.
Oh,
Yep.
Come on, released by Tampa 4 days before the Bengals pick him up last September. He was huge.
And he was great last year. I mean, he had 6.5 sacks.
He's been huge
Underrated
since he's
player.
come in.
Yeah.
He's a big man indeed, yes.
They've found a number of players like that. You're right. Duke Tobin does not get enough
Incredible.
credit for everything that he's done, not only in drafting recently, but also in finding guys like this. I do want to remind you guys to send us your questions on Twitter. Hashtag Beyond the Stripes. Use that. We'll try and get to them tonight, or anything for the future. You can always send it to all of us, and we'll try and answer them on the blog or on Cincinnati.com during the week. Send us something on Facebook, /Cincinnati Inquirer, and we will be there and try to get to whatever we can. I have one more thing I want to talk about, because we have a bit of news today. Adam Pac-Man Jones not guilty on the assault charge. So he's cleared of that. Now, the question is, Joe, no repercussions expected from the league on this?
Shouldn't be any repercussions from the league, and if there are any, if I'm Peter Schaefer, who's Adam Jones's agent, I take some sort of legal action against the league. He was found not guilty. There shouldn't be any suspension.
Does that make all of this okay? We talked a couple weeks about this, about behaving yourself in public. The line was still pushed to the brink here, going this far in court, and anybody that followed at Kimball Perry on Twitter today enjoyed the play-by-play, one of the great Twitter follow days of all time.
I never thought judicial play-by-play could be so exciting.
Unbelievable. It was better than any game I've seen. But does that make it okay, Doc?
No, it does. I mean, he also has another charge hanging over his head, does he not?
No, he was
Disorderly
cited, played the
conduct.
fine.
He pled, okay. Adam Jones, good for him. If he's not guilty, the court decides, that's terrific. He needs to understand, yet again, you cannot put yourself in those sorts of situations. There's no need to have any of this happen. Stay home. Hang out with your wife. If you go someplace with your wife, have a nice dinner, sit in the corner someplace, don't make waves, go back home, no problems.
the Bengals can't really afford to lose Adam Pac-Man Jones. And Lindsay, tell me if I'm wrong here. It puts your teammates in tough positions when you continually find yourself in situations like that.
Yes, and with how Adam Jones has been playing lately, amazing. Probably one of his best seasons. Mike Zimmer praising him week to week. Man, Adam's putting another great game in there. They can't afford to lose him defensively just by what he's doing on the field. So stay out of bars.
Well, we've got plenty more coming for you because guess what? The Kevin Huber fan club is here in the house with us tonight. Not only do we have local boy made good Kevin Huber with us, but he has brought apparently a giant family. This is far and away the most backers for a guest that we've ever had. So Kevin is going to have to come back every week and bring all of his friends, and they're going to have to drink and roll up large tabs here at the Moorline Lager House. I'm sure they'd like that.
But not only huge for 5 years, definitely huge that last punt on Sunday against New England.
Huge.
Outstanding.
As many were talking about it afterwards, as one of the great plays of a pretty fantastic NFL
If
weekend.
John Facenda were still alive, that would be an epic narration of that punt with the NFL Films music in the background.
They gave the ball.
No
to
doubt about it.
Huber.
We
On
will
a
have-
rainy day at Paul Brown Stadium.
Yeah, I want you to
NFL
keep
films.
going. Don't just stop. Bring out the frozen tundra at some point, you know? Well, anyway, we're going to have plenty more with Kevin. We're going to bring him up here, talk to him about his story. In case you don't know, he has many things that he's done in his life. He's actually currently the most consecutive games played. He's the leader on the Bengals. He's a two-time consensus All-American. He's a 2009 draft pick, but most importantly, two-time GCL Punter of the Year, which I'm sure he still brags about every day. But we will be back with plenty more here at the Moorline Lager House at the Cincinnati.com Sports Beyond. This starts with Paul Daugherty, presented by JosephAuto.com.
Do not, I repeat, do not buy a 2013 Chevy from another dealer. Not when you can get a 2014 from Joseph Chevrolet for the same price or less. Seriously, Joseph Chevrolet's 2014s are a better deal than anyone else's 2013s. $129 a month for a new Cruise? Up to $6,500 off a 2014 Silverado? Now that's a clearance sale. Don't pay more for a 2013 than a 2014. Come to Joseph Chevrolet now.
Uncle Ray.
Where should we go to eat tonight?
How are the Reds doing?
What time does the movie start?
Did you hear about the new Bengals
Check
player?
out this photo gallery.
Did you check out the bands coming to the
shared
summer
this
tour?
That's
great. I missed the story.
She wore what?
If you don't read The Inquirer at Cincinnati.com, you're missing out on what everyone's talking about. Breaking news, the best local events calendar, and in-depth stories. Updated all day long. Subscribe now at Cincinnati.com/subscribe. The Inquirer and Cincinnati.com. It's what everyone's talking about.
All right, welcome back to Cincinnati.com Sports Beyond the Stripes with Paul Daugherty, presented by JosephAuto.com. We are still here live at the Moorline Lager House, and we have had Kevin Huber now joins us. Let's hear it for Kevin Huber joining us here tonight.
Thank you.
Great to have Kevin with us. As we said, you can tweet to us at hashtag Beyond the Stripes. You have. Lindsay, before leading into today, racked up a few questions that were sent. Hopefully the Twitters were not too mean to you. Hopefully they're going to be very nice
they
to our
love
local
him
boy
right now.
here. What does the Twitters have to say?
Deanna wants to know, do you like playing in your hometown or would you rather play elsewhere?
Not knowing anything else, I really enjoy playing here. I've played college ball here. I grew up here, and everything about the city I love, and the stuff that's happened out the city's been growing, and I wouldn't want to go anywhere else.
Finn wants to know your stretching tips. What are you doing at practice before the game?
Well, honestly, I'm probably one of the most unflexible punters there are. I am not flexible at all, so I wouldn't want to give any tips on not stretching.
No stretching tips from Kevin Huber. That's what we learned today.
Wait, how is a punter not flexible?
I just make it work.
He makes it happen.
So what do you do? Do you stretch at all? Or
I
you
do
just go out
stretch.
there and just crush?
But flexible for me is not flexible for many other punters.
You can touch your toes?
Yes.
I can touch my toes, yeah.
He can touch his toes, ladies and
That's all
gentlemen.
that matters.
You know, you were Nick, and I always wonder how did you get into the punting game? I mean, how did that all start? Did you have somebody there that helped pull you along?
When I first growing up, I was playing soccer, and I was the goalie or the fullback, sweeper, whatever you want to call it. And I could always just kick the ball far. So when I started playing football, they asked, who can kick the ball. So I raised my hand and said, yeah, I'll do it. And I had a few people in my family that could kick as well. My dad, both my sisters, my brother kicked. My mom my grandma informed my mom was a kickball champion.
Yeah.
So
wow.
I guess kicking just runs in the family.
Tell us about the 56-yarder. Right? That was an epic kick, maybe the best kick that I've ever seen, given the circumstances and the need for a boom. When you hit the ball, is it like a great golf shot or a great hit in baseball? Do you have a sweet spot? Do you know when you've hit a good one? And obviously you must have known when that one went off your leg.
Yeah, I was talking to someone else this week, and it's like when you're out playing golf and you hit a really good shot, and it's a good shot because you don't really feel it. It's similar to that, where you just your technique's good, the swing's good, contact's good, and you can just by how the ball hit your foot, it's going to be a good hit. I didn't think it was going to be that good of a hit with the wind. No, but luckily it turned out that way.
Did your hands stay dry at all? I mean, I saw you down there trying to dry them off with that towel. Did that help at all?
I really don't know why I took the towel out with me, because the second I threw it away, it just got wet. So I don't really. No, they were not dry at all.
Didn't help.
No.
Is there? So let me give you a choice here.
Okay.
3 conditions:
Okay.
rain, wind, snow. You have to deal with one of them. Just one is happening. Which one would you prefer, and which is the worst?
I'd probably say rain, because that can happen when it's warm. Snow. Snow's not bad because you don't really get. If it's a wet snow, that'd be bad. But if it's just like a regular snow, that's fine. But it's too cold out.
Yeah.
I'd rather just have rain when it's warm out.
Yeah.
The worst would be wind. I don't like wind at all.
Wind is the worst.
Yeah, I'd say wind's the worst.
You constantly have to be monitoring that during a game, then, I guess.
Yeah, in between quarters, I usually go out in the field because we change directions, go out and see how the wind's doing, go in a different direction, and base where I'm going to punt off that.
Yeah.
Well, you grew up punting on your street.
Yeah.
I asked you jokingly, I remember interviewing you when you were still at UC, and I asked you the same question. You're on a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Did you ever shank a punt into somebody's family room?
I'd be lying if I said I didn't.
You did. How did they feel about that, Kevin?
Well, it's one of those things, when mama doesn't know doesn't hurt her. I don't think they knew it. I did it.
Really? They didn't know they had a football in their living room. Hey, great Santa came early.
It was more so just their cars than anything. No windows were broken. Just a few cars might have been dented.
You dented a few cars.
Yeah.
Wow. But can those people now, given the 56-yard punt and the fact that you've been such a good punter, can they drive those cars around now and say, see that dent right there?
Well, hopefully they're sold the
Kevin
cars.
Huber made that dent.
I don't have to worry about that.
You have 2 career tackles in your career here. Do you remember the games?
I've probably have a lot more missed tackles, but 2 career tackles, I couldn't tell you.
Couldn't tell?
No, not a clue.
Do you know your career rushing stats?
0.
You have,
Actually,
technically, they gave you 2 rushes.
They gave me 2?
They've given you 2 rushes for -1 yards. You need to get out there.
Oh, yeah, the one
get
was,
that in the positive.
The one was Pittsburgh. I botched a snap my rookie year.
Yep.
That was not. Yeah, I was reminded about that at Christmas.
Yeah.
And the other one was at Washington last year.
Well, I also know anybody that came down to training camp knows that there will, at the end of these special teams, there will always be one where it's a fake and they'll watch you roll out and throw it.
Yeah.
When is this going to happen? We've yet to see it in a game. You've yet to throw this pass. I've seen you throw hundreds in practices, but they never roll it out in the game.
We're just keeping it for the right time.
The right.
Yeah, the right time.
You're the secret weapon.
Maybe next year.
Do you have a good arm? Could you pull this off?
I have an okay arm.
Yeah.
As long as it's not like 40 yards downfield.
Right.
A little dump pass, 10-yard out.
We're waiting.
Do you have the nightmares of the old NFL films where the punter or kicker tries to throw it and the ball flies backwards and they run the other way? Do you have nightmares of that happening? Do you ever had to do that?
I try not to think about that, no.
All right, you signed a new deal, 5-year deal. What was the first thing you bought?
Oh.
Big thing.
Oh, I just bought a house, so that'd be the big.
Pretty big
thing.
deal.
Yeah,
That's pretty big.
yeah. Just moved in a couple weeks ago, so.
Here's a question this is kind of a nerd boy question, but it's something I've always wanted to ask a guy like you. How involved are you in the day-to-day of film sessions, position groups, going to meetings, that sort of thing? Or do you just kind of punt and go home?
I wish it was like that. I wish I could just punt and go home.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot nicer.
Well, I told you it was a nerd boy question. So
We have a very detail-oriented special teams coach, and Darren Simmons.
Yes.
And he spends more time watching film than I've ever seen anybody do anything else. So he always has something to show us, film to watch, film to break down, film from practice of ourselves kicking, punting, snapping. So when everybody else is meeting, we're usually meeting.
Same thing.
There's rarely a time when we're not meeting.
Okay.
I want to say this, one of my favorite things I love to talk to you about, we've talked about this before, is how much you despise the rugby punt. The new college punting technique where the punter grabs it, has to sort of run and decide if he's going to maybe. You hate that.
I do.
Why do you hate the rugby punt so much?
So when we changed coaching staffs in college and Coach Kelly's staff came in, Mike Elston, the special teams coach, when they were at Central, is that where they came from?
Yeah.
Yeah. Their punter there was, I guess, just more of an athlete. And they used it there as because he could have a run option. And I just think it's the dumbest thing. It's not punting.
Yeah.
And the one time we did it in a game, it got blocked.
Yeah.
And I immediately ran to the sideline and said, we're never doing that again.
Yeah.
And I think what it's doing now is taking the true punter out of the game. And the punter's coming in, which is actually nice for me now.
Job security.
So they can keep doing it in college as long as it doesn't come to the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your jersey's pretty popular at Paul Brown Stadium. If you weren't a punter, what jersey would you wear?
What number?
What jersey? What player jersey? Would you wear a punter's jersey?
I don't know. I don't know if I
Nothing wrong with that.
I don't know. I'm not really sure what jersey I wear. I had a Tequila Spikes jersey growing up.
Okay.
I was probably had a TJ Maxx.
What goes through your mind when you see somebody wearing your jersey? You're like, do you ever tell them, I'm the punter, right?
Well, most of the time it's my family.
It's your family.
So it's your family we're seeing popular.
I think when I first got drafted, my mom can correct us if I'm wrong, they slept with about $15,000 in cash the night before they went and put a jersey order in because they had so many people from the fam that want to get jerseys. So, I think most of the time it's just my family.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, hey, I'll tell you what. Kevin Huber, so great to join us here. It's been great having him with us. We've been talking all about his personal story. We're going to talk a little bit more previewing the game coming up against the Bills. Joe and I are going to have a little bit of a debate, so that's unfortunately going to be embarrassing for him and great for me. We're going to talk all kinds of topics, and we'll come back and talk to Kevin a little bit later. But we want to thank everybody for coming out here to the Moorline Lager House tonight, including Team Huber. Greatest player contingent ever. And we'll be right back with plenty more on Cincinnati.com Beyond the Stripes with Paul Daugherty, presented by JosephAuto.com.
Chris, how you doing? Hey, what's happening? This place looks awesome. Brand new showroom, brand new service department. Now all I need is a new caddy. And I'm thinking the North American Car of the Year, the ATS right here. What do you think?
Nice car, Chris, and only $299 a month. But a guy your size, you need the comfort, the technology that this car has. The XTS for only $399 a month.
For $100 more, I can do this?
$100.
I'll win that from you on the golf course. Come on, let's do it.
Compliments of Camargo Cadillac.
Where should we go to eat tonight?
How are the Reds doing?
What time does the movie start?
Did you hear about the new Bengals
Check
player?
out this photo gallery.
Did you check out the bands coming to the show?
That's the story.
Sure, what?
If you don't read the Inquirer at Cincinnati.com, you're missing out on what everyone's talking about. Breaking news, the best local events calendar, and in-depth stories. Updated all day long. Subscribe now at Cincinnati.com/subscribe. The Inquirer and Cincinnati.com. It's what everyone's talking about.
Welcome back, everyone. Before we get back to football, There's a gentleman here that we're going to recognize a little bit. We're going to share with you a story not about football necessarily, but about covering football. Jeff Swinger has been kind of a mainstay on the Inquirer's photography staff for the past decade covering the Bengals, and we have a little bit of a video tribute, a story about how Jeff Swinger, Swingman, covers a Bengals game.
I'm the primary photographer for our Cincinnati Bengals coverage. I shoot just about all the home games, and I'll be covering most of the away games as well. Once the game starts, it's game on. It's time to really work. Shooting football is a pretty physical day. It's tiring. Got a lot of gear, very heavy. Shooting from your knees most of the time. I love being on the field. I mean, it's the best seat in the house. There's no doubt about it. Number one, have to be safe, because there's a lot of big guys wearing lots of pads and helmets and can hurt you really bad if you're not paying attention. I've had some close calls, and hopefully that's all I'll ever have are close calls. Being on the sideline is pretty intense. You hear all the noise, all the smashing of the helmets and the pads and people hitting, and you hear the talking and coaches yelling and fans from the other side yelling in this ear. You hear the team in this side. It's pretty exciting, especially when it's a big game and the crowd is really into it. My goal when covering a game is to tell a story. When you look at the pictures, usually a set of pictures in a photo gallery, I want you to be able to know what happened during that game. I'm very passionate about my job and my sports coverage, and I hope that you can see that in my images. Check out our coverage on Cincinnati.com and the Cincinnati Inquirer, and follow me on Twitter at SwingmanCincy.
Of course, Swingman does a fantastic job. This is the moment we'll embarrass Swinger. He loves being behind the camera, but, we also have to put him in front of it every once in a while. Swingman does an incredible job. And it's funny because it started the first day of the season this year, Joe, when Swingman played the most major role maybe in all of our coverage that day.
Yeah, 45 minutes into the first training camp practice, the A.J. Green injury. Got the perfect plant of the foot and how it rolled. 3-4 picture sequence that he got perfectly. Was on the front page, website. Got a ton of hits.
Joe, you and I can wax poetic with our prose all day, but we never could have described what happened anything like the shot that Swinger got. And it's he does incredible work. Swingman always doing great stuff. He will be out there at every home game this year. So keep checking Cincinnati.com for all of that. Of course, we now have to talk about the next game. As Joe said, beat Tom Brady all you want, but if you can't beat Thad Lewis, it really don't mean nothing.
The quarterback situation is a mess in Buffalo. I think that the Buffalo News today called it Plan F. They went from Cobb, he got hurt. Then they tried to sign Leinart. Then they wanted to get Freeman, that didn't work out. Who am I missing?
Maybe made a call to get
Toole.
Fitzy back.
Jeff Toole,
the guy who played last week.
This is their fifth quarterback. This is a guy making his second career start. And they called him up from the practice squad, and here he is. Golden opportunity for the Bengals to show that last week was not a fluke, and the defense can still play great, even if it's not terribly inspired against a lackluster quarterback.
Well, and I think we talk about guys being called up from the practice squad to the active roster, but in the NFL these days, there's really only two quarterbacks on your 53. That Jeff Toole, we all thought for maybe about 7 days he was going to be Buffalo's starter in training camp, and then they decided to go another direction. E.J. Manuel actually played pretty good when he was in. Got the big win against Carolina, last second drive, and they beat Baltimore with E.J. Manuel. Looked like they were going to do a pretty good job against the Browns last week until he got hurt. And actually, that E.J. Manuel injury last week, to me, looked worse than Brian Hoyer, but Hoyer's out for the year.
You talk about a silly play that a rookie will learn from. E.J. Manuel has the first down clearly, attempts to get 3 to 4 extra yards, and ends up just taking one right on the knee. That's one of those where it comes with a rookie quarterback, where that's a lesson that he has to learn to get out of bounds, because now he has his team in a lurch against a defense like the Bengals. It's a tough spot. You never want your coach to say, we think Thad gives us our best chance to win. That's never good.
Yeah, but we've seen unheralded quarterbacks throughout the years come in. Brian Hoyer's your perfect example.
Yep.
Goes on the road, beats Minnesota. The next week, didn't do anything, didn't make that game-killing mistake against the Bengals, 2 90-yard drives, and does it. And the thing about Buffalo is they got 2 damn good running backs in C.J. Spiller and Fred Jackson. So this isn't like Cleveland where there was a struggling running game and you hope that Brian Hoyer can win the game. You just ground and pound, and I know you hate that, Doc, with Jackson and Spiller, and you got Stevie Jackson, who's an interesting enigma in himself. He gets a couple big receptions. It could be a long day.
And let's not forget this. This team is 0-2 on the road this year. And the Bills have been pretty good at home. They took an L to the Pats at the last second in their opener. They beat the Panthers 24-23, and they just beat the Ravens 23-20 up there. And you're a Bengals team that struggled to find that road win. My question to you then, Lindsay, would be why has this team struggled on the road? Because they've been great on the road in previous years.
I feel like this team does a great job of playing to the opponent. However, whoever they're playing each week, they play just like, the Browns are good. I'll give them credit when they had Hoyer in there, but they play like the Browns in that game. The Packers game, they were really into it at the beginning of the game, kind of fell behind, got back into it. The Steelers game still kind of played to the Steelers' opponent because we didn't know how bad the Steelers were really going to be, but that's their problem.
Well, this is the week. They've talked about being a more mature team, a team that's more into it and understands what it has to do week to week to prepare, no matter who the opponent is. I guess we find out.
However, they haven't won at Buffalo since 1985. Your number one song in November of 1985 when the Bengals won was Whitney Houston's Saving All My Love for You.
I wasn't even born yet.
I was in high school.
Were you singing to that at your high school homecoming, Joe?
Were you
Who
wearing
said I
that
went
hat?
to homecoming dances?
Sorry, you're right. We should have known better. Maybe you were in the band, the lead singer of the band there that day.
No, not really.
No. Well, I tried. But one thing that was talked about this week regarding the Bills, they have a lot of top picks up front. Joe, they have just seemed to compile these monsters up there that, with all the athleticism in the world, is that the biggest challenge for this offense?
I think so. Mario Williams on a very good run. Kiko Alonso, their middle linebacker, second-round pick, playing very well. Offensive line, Eric Wood, the kid from Elder. 2 serious injuries his first 4 years in the pros. Gets a contract extension this year, well-deserved. He's playing well. On both sides of the line, that's going to be the interesting matchup. It's going to be a true trench battle.
Well, you got 7.5 sacks from Mario Williams. That's a concern. They have 9 interceptions. That's a concern. All you need is a sack, fumble, or an interception, pick 6. Things change. You're on the road. The momentum shifts. The crowd gets into it. Suddenly a team that isn't as good as you believes that they can beat you. Things change. This is a week for the Bengals to prove that they can win a game on the road against a team that they should beat.
Yeah, absolutely. And still trying to do that. So we'll see if they can do that. Of course, speaking of people that should be beat, I believe that I believe it is about time we bring back. I'm calling it 4 quarters. Joe and I went at it last week. I was a unanimous winner, according to everyone that I talked to, which mainly involves my family. But
did you just talk to family about this?
Did I need to talk to anybody else? Those are the ones that had the best opinions, so I stopped there after I decided that I had won. So we're going to go at it again. We're going to do 2 right now. Then we're going to take a little halftime. And then we'll come back after that, and I'll finish it off.
Respective corners, get the water breaks.
Absolutely. You got to go get the Gatorade and regroup, talk to everybody. So let's start it off.
Aaron, what's topic 1?
Topic 1 is Andy Dalton, is the heat on him regarding his future. We're not talking about this year. Is the heat on him right now involving his future? Joe, go ahead.
I think there's constant heat when you're a starting quarterback. And the fact is, should there be immense heat now? No. This is a work in progress through the season. Late November, early December, I think the picture's drawn. We shouldn't have been too high after Chicago. We shouldn't have been too low after Cleveland. But I also think, too, with Andy, considering the leeway we gave to Carson Palmer in the past, there's definitely more scrutiny now.
And there should be, and I'll tell you why. Because next year, they were just talking about this today, there is the idea that it could be a record year for quarterbacks drafted in the first round. They're talking 9 quarterbacks right now have the possibility to be first-round draft picks, and they're saying 11 that more than likely will come out will be first- or second-round draft picks. That's a third of the league will have somebody inserted to put heat on somebody, and if Andy Dalton doesn't feel that with a huge draft coming out next year, that means right now he needs to start putting up those types of games where he moves forward. It has to happen. That's enough. I win 1-0. Let's move on to the next one. Should the Bengals be running more or passing more to get this offense moving?
You need balance, and you need to run. I think right now you need to run more. You need to get confidence with this offense, string together first down, string together long possessions, ground and pound, be physical, not only on offense, but on both sides of the ball. The game plan last week worked. It worked for 3 games in November when it was really producing. Run it.
He says run the ball. I mean, Doc's next to me, and I know what he would say, so I'm going to say what he would say. It's a passing league, Joe, and we've seen the ceiling for ground and pound in Bengals stripes. Look at 2009. Look at 2011. Ground and pound and running the ball will get you into the playoffs. It will not get you over the top there. They must find out if these young weapons, Bernard, Eifert, Sanu, Jones, are the difference to get this passing game going to help move it over the top, because that is what will help move this team over the top. If we admit that they're able to get into the playoffs with this crew right now, we've got to realize that they have to learn the next level.
But you are effective when you run it 3-4 straight times. That opens it up for an A.J. Green. That opens it up for a Jermaine Gresham. That opens things up. You can't do 3 straight passing plays. Remember the first drive in the second half on Sunday? What did that get them?
But right now, don't we need to learn that they can do this? Because when they do get into January, we need to know if they can throw it. We will find out. I'll maybe give you a wash with a good comeback, but it's at least a wash. I'm up 1-0. We're going into halftime. We'll be back with that later. We'll also have Doc's thoughts, and we'll talk again with Kevin Huber as Lindsay will join him. Plenty more to come here on Cincinnati.com Sports Beyond the Stripes. Paul Daugherty, presented by JoeSpado.com.
Do not, I repeat, do not buy a 2013 Chevy from another dealer. Not when you can get a 2014 from Joseph Chevrolet for the same price or less. Seriously, Joseph Chevrolet's 2014s are a better deal than anyone else's 2013s. $129 a month for a new Cruise? Up to $6,500 off a 2014 Silverado? Now that's a clearance sale. Don't pay more for a 2013 than a 2014. Come to Joseph Chevrolet now.
Uncle Ray.
Where should we go to eat tonight?
How are the Reds doing?
What time does the movie start?
Did you hear about the new Bengals
Check
player?
out this photo gallery.
Did you check out the bands coming to the
That's great. I missed the story.
Sure, what?
If you don't read The Inquirer at Cincinnati.com, you're missing out on what everyone's talking about. Breaking news, the best local events calendar, and in-depth stories. Updated all day long. Subscribe now at Cincinnati.com/subscribe. The Inquirer at Cincinnati.com. It's what everyone's talking about.
We are back. You know, the Bengals have proven they can beat Super Bowl caliber teams with Super Bowl proven quarterbacks. Now they need to prove they can beat the Buffalo Bills and Thaddeus Lewis. That's the guy making his second career start Sunday, just like a certain Cleveland QB 2 weeks ago. It's one thing to get up for big games. Any team can get up for big games. For the Bengals to be taken seriously as championship contenders, they need to beat teams like Buffalo. Losing in Cleveland showed Cincinnati wasn't quite ready to join the league's elite. Beating the Bills Sunday will ease some of that concern. The other worry remains the offense. 19 points in 2 weeks does not cut it. Andy Dalton and Jay Gruden have been largely off stride this season. That needs to change. The defense has shown it can carry a champion's load. Now is the time to get Dalton, Gruden, and the offense to share that burden. No better place to start than in Buffalo, in a game the Bengals need to be mature enough to win. Take it away, boys.
That's a great point, and I think you can extend that to the next 2 weeks. Really, this 3-game stretch here. You go at Detroit, you get the Jets here at home. Not exactly the world beaters, not terrible teams, and certainly as we learned on Monday Night Football last night with the Jets. But you talk about these are 3 winnable games where you could go into the midway point sitting at 5-3, 6-2. It really has to happen. This is where you have to start to make hay.
And I think Doc put it perfectly with the last sentence, maturity of a team. This is a young team. Most of this core is in its 3rd year together. To make that next step up and to prove you are a mature team. They've proven some of it this year beating playoff teams, no doubt. But you also got to beat the teams that you're supposed to.
Absolutely.
And this is the start in Buffalo. Detroit's going to be a challenge with that offense and everything. The Jets are going to be a challenge too. But you've got to. This is a win that you have to have, especially considering that you lost to Cleveland, which was more important. That's a division loss. Week 4, they laid an egg. You lay an egg in week 6, then we see a pattern here.
We talked about, Doc, we talked about this, learning from your mistakes. We said after the Green Bay win, they learned from the mistakes made at the end of the Bears win. Will they go to Buffalo and learn from the mistakes of what happened in Cleveland?
And as Whitworth said after the game, if we don't take care of business in Buffalo, this great win against New England doesn't mean a whole lot.
It really won't. Luckily, I have a great win that I'm going to try and pull off now. Already up 1-0. I'm going into the second half here. We've got 2 more topics. The third one is Zimmer's window. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. This is our rubber match. We're dropping the 4th one. Rubber match right now. Let's talk about Mike Zimmer. Is the window closing on Mike Zimmer becoming a head coach at this point?
Paul, I think if he doesn't do it this year, then the window is starting to shut. I mean, we saw Hard Knocks, a 5 to 10 minute testimonial, the stoic photo of him on the golf cart, staring out. You take Aaron Rodgers, you take Tom Brady. With this defense, what it's done, a mixture of young and old. The way he's even gotten better talking to us about his family being here and everything. He's displaying qualities of a head coach. Where I don't care anymore about, we need an offensive coordinator, we need a defensive coordinator. Damn it, you need a motivator. You need a strong franchise voice. I don't even care if it's a special teams coach. John Harbaugh was a special teams coach, and he's a Super Bowl winner. It just matters to me if you're a people person and can motivate guys. If he doesn't get it this year, I'm concerned it starts shutting.
Here's where I'm going to go with this. I'm strictly going off numbers. I'm a numbers guy. Mike Zimmer, 57 years old. You know how old Tom Coughlin is? 66. How's he done in his last 9 years? Only won a couple of Super Bowls. Belichick is 60. Dick Vermeil won a Super Bowl at 63. Now, I hear you that you would say, if not now, when? But if he keeps, at some point it will come, and it's not a matter of age.
And Belichick and
what else could the window
were in their
involve?
40s when they got their first head coaching job. I think.
But that doesn't mean that he couldn't go and win. It's not a matter of age in the NFL right now when you have guys like that.
First-time head coaches in their late 50s, that starts to become a concern. He's 57 now. He doesn't get it this year. He's all of a sudden 58. That starts shutting. I don't want to see him like Romeo Crennel, where all of a sudden he's in his early 60s and he sacrifices who he is.
Mike Zimmer is much more talented than Romeo Crennel, and as a Browns fan, you would recognize that.
I definitely know that, but I think he's got to do it now.
I take the win 2-1, 2 weeks in a row. My family will back me up on that.
I think since I'm not allowed to participate in the debate, I should be able to thumbs up or thumbs down who wins.
So go ahead.
I say Joe Reedy wins that one.
What? That is a terrible decision. I will be under protest, and I will come back next week. Lindsay, get me out of here. Take it over to Team Huber, which is just dominating over here at Moorline Lager House.
That is a great name for it. A table filled with Kevin Huber's family. They're all cheering loud during the whole show. So I'm right here with Kathy, Kevin's mom. I'm going to ask a little bit about Kevin. I want to know, what kind of child was he?
Almost like the perfect child.
I want to know the truth. Everyone wants to know the truth.
The golden child, as the other kids called him. But he was a good kid. He rarely got in trouble, did what he was told.
All right, I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to ask his sisters that are standing right behind him. Sarah, give me an embarrassing story.
So things with Kevin kind of come full circle. When he was drafted, he was living in my parents' basement, and he was living there through like the start of training camp. He was also driving a car that was so bad. It was a 1996 Chevy Corsica with like baby blue cloth interior. My dad's dealership gave him a nicer car to drive so he wouldn't be embarrassed. And now in January after the season, he's going to move back in with my parents when his house is getting redone. So he just can't get away from mom and dad.
Oh, that was a little embarrassing. Not too bad. All right, I want to know on Sunday, how were you feeling right before he had to punt that ball away? Nervous? Probably one of the most nerve-wracking.
A nervous wreck thinking the game's on the line and Kevin's up to punt. Oh, dear Lord. His friend was sitting next to me, and he got that punt off. He grabbed me in a bear hug, and he's shaking me up and down. Oh, my God, put me down, put me down. But it was awesome.
Probably one of the most nerve-wracking games.
Yes, exactly.
All right, thank you, guys. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Kathy. Back to you guys.
All right, let's hear it for Team Huber and Kevin Huber for joining us here at the Moorline Lager House.
By the way, we talk about the over $180 million that the Bengals spent this offseason. One of the first guys they signed to an extension, and a 5-year extension, which is rare for a punter, was Kevin Huber.
Kevin
just to
Huber,
show what he means to this team.
I'm sure his family is very happy about the 5-year extension as well. That's why they're all here. Every drink on Kevin Huber here tonight and his 5-year extension. Let's remember that. Well, anyway, want to thank everybody for coming out here to the Moorline Lager House tonight. I hope you all had a good time. We, of course, are here every single Tuesday, 7 o'clock, at Joe Reedy, at Inquirer Doc, at Lindsey Patterson, at Paul Daner Jr. Hit us up on Twitter with any questions, anything you want to say about the show. We'll be back here next week, and we'll have plenty more guests. Bengals will be talking about whatever the heck happened when they come back from Buffalo. Thank you for joining us, the Moorline Lager House, Cincinnati.com Sports Beyond the Stripes with Paul Daugherty, presented by JosephAuto.com. Have a great night.
Let's shuffle off the Buffalo.